This is us. We're a transmedia company, which is basically we tell stories, but we just think we should tell them on all platforms that we can access wherever our audience is a place that we like to be. We've produced lots of stuff for teens, primarily because we just never grew up. So that's an audience that we relate to. Not so much preschoolers, they're a whole different ballgame, but particularly tweens between like 7 to 12 and up to 18 is our kind of audience that we understand. We've produced a lot around the world in that we've been lucky enough to do that. We started off doing interactive TV drama when the bubble burst and everyone thought that new technology was a crazy place to go and play in. In Portugal, we've produced series in China. We were the first Western drama format to transfer into China, into the Chinese market. That's an interesting market to transfer into because we went with a teenage show, which was a girl whose father had remarried, they had a young baby, there were issues with the family, she was fighting with her younger sibling, there was a boyfriend at school that she wasn't getting on with, and we went to China and we were so like, yes, you know, it's the first show that started on the web and crossed to television in the UK, this will be amazing. And they really politely listened to us after they bought the format, and then they said, okay, so China, one parent policy, no sibling, no fighting with your parents ever, that's just not gonna happen. And as for dating before you get to college, that's not gonna happen either. So our entire drama structure kind of disappeared within 5 minutes of the conversation, and we thought, okay, let's reversion it for your audience and make her go to college so we can actually have her living out of the house and do crazy things like that. And that is the wonderful thing about working in the international marketplace when you're working in these types of formats that you reversion for different territories. You get to really engage and learn and understand the culture that is there. But I'm digressing, so I will go on. This is what we create. We create books, novels, comic books, games, mobile apps, blogs, social media. We do licensed products, web series. We've done primetime TV series. We were involved in co-producing series with HBO in Canada more recently. And feature films. We've crossed into the big screen, which we love and want to do more of as well. But to give you an idea of what a transmedia project looks like for us, we wanted to show you one that was shot locally by the absolutely gorgeous Irish director, Martin de Barra. And I have to say, one of the reasons we got a chance to work with him was because we originally worked with him on a BAI-funded series called The Club on girls' Gaelic football, which was his first directing break. And then we got to do this with him. And then he got an Emmy nomination, and now he's working for BBC. So it's a whole great kind of evolution from starting with web and ending up there. But I will give you a look and see what you think.
BeActive Entertainment presents the Emmy-nominated teen series for the social media generation, Beat Girl.
Featuring 19-year-old Heather, torn between the dream of becoming a pianist and the challenge of pursuing the exciting world of DJing, Beat Girl is an interactive storytelling experience that unfolded on multiple platforms, becoming part of the viewers' lives. Audiences were able to connect with Heather's dilemma, help her follow her dreams, and become a professional DJ.
It all started on Pinterest, a true original from the very beginning. Beat Girl was the first scripted story told on this new social media network.
Through Heather's boards and using the photo novel approach, viewers were given the chance to repin photos that inspired them, engage with her video entries, and ultimately learn about the world of Beat Girl in a simple and visually appealing way. Beat Girl became one of the top 10 most influential profiles on Pinterest in 2012, as featured on the Daily Dot magazine.
To introduce the audience to more details on Heather's life, a profile was created on the literary social platform Wattpad.
Written like a personal diary, each chapter drew the fans to read the next one as they engaged emotionally with Heather's struggle and shared her innermost thoughts and hopes. Reaching 1 million readers in less than a year, the Wattpad chapters were followed by a highly successful novel written by Jasmina Calais that became an overnight bestseller. The hit of Heather's stories generated a flow of fan fiction stories, some of them picked by BeActive and published as ebooks.
The success of the previous platforms allowed Heather's universe to expand and develop with an even greater interactive experience now on YouTube.
The audience could now follow Heather's journey turned into live-action webisodes where fans could finally experience the story in real time. Additionally, she attended in-character, real events and met real DJs to ask them for advice on becoming a professional DJ, her new passion. Fans were involved in the process, helping Heather to find and connect with some of the best DJs in today's music industry. Heather gained credibility within the electronic dance music community, and fans were now rooting for her success.
Months of community and brand building led to a high-rated 5-part TV series.
Broadcasted in Europe and North America, the TV series drew the fans into Heather's struggle between coping with her estranged father and half-brother and finding her true musical identity.
A mobile phone game was also offered to the audience. Fans could become the DJ and mix the original soundtrack featured in the series.
The TV show was then extended with a connected TV app to enhance the fan experience, bringing all the additional Beat Girl content to the TV viewers, creating an integrated 2-screen experience.
A heartwarming coming-of-age story that takes us on an inspiring journey through music. Beat Girl. When dreams are at stake, how far would you go to make them come true?
So that's Beat Girl, and yes, I apologize. The voiceover is very American, but you have to remember we were trying to enter it into the International Emmys, which is based in New York, so we kind of went with that. If we had an option again, we would go with Kevin. It would be amazing. But it was enough to get us an Emmy nomination and 2 Kids Screen Awards. It played on Hulu. It did VOT here with UPC. It sold internationally, Sweden, various other territories, and currently it is optioned by Ben Silverman's company in the US, who Electus, who were the people who reversioned Ugly Betty for the US networks. And I don't know, I hear he's talking to Simon Cowell, I don't know. But this is what we do. So why do we do this kind of crazy things that we do? And the reason we do it is because of Lee's audience. Lee's audience is like, they are the most socially savvy audience in terms of being multi-platform managers. If you want to reach this audience and really engage with them, it's not enough to just have your content on these platforms. You have to allow them to interact with this content. They're not just passively sitting back waiting to be entertained. Most of the time they're going online because they want to connect and communicate with each other. And that means that we want them to connect and communicate with the stories that we're building. We're building these stories for this audience. It makes sense that when we're developing these stories, we ask them, what do you think? Is it something that's appealing to you? Do you want to watch it? Would you be involved in it? And when we develop these types of stories, we develop them through various ways, through using comic books, digital comic books. We'll touch on Collider, which is a sci-fi series later. But Collider for us, which later became a feature film, started as 6 comic books that we released online as ebooks and asked people to download. And then we did some like stop motion animated shorts, which went online on our YouTube channels. And we saw where the audience was going. We read the comments. We saw the feedback. I mean, the trailer there for Beat Girl showed you Movellas, which is a Canadian-based web platform. It has 23 million unique visitors every month who are that target age group, who are engaging with the story, leaving comments, telling you what characters they love, telling you, like, to the extent that they're writing fan fiction for the characters you've created. It's amazing to get that kind of feedback from the people you want to create and tell your stories to. So from where we're coming from, you should be developing using the online audience and the resources that are there. So when we create something, we test it in terms of bringing it to a Movellas, a Wattpad, an ebook, a web series, a digital phone, a game, an app. And we look at the views, the hits, the figures, where they're coming from, when they're watching, what comments they're leaving. We run competitions with them. We invite them to send us stories. We ask them to upload their music to be featured in the soundtrack. We make them our super fans, and we really go out of our way to make sure they feel included in the process. In the credits of more recent stuff that we've done, like Collider, we've credited the super fans who've blogged, who've been there from the start, who've supported, who've shared the video, who've told people that they should go and see the show, because they are the people who make these projects. We make them for them, and we make them with them. And for us, this is what a typical transmedia type strategy would look like. So, why we do what we do. And it's an interesting one. In the old days, you would create something and you would give it to your gatekeeper, the broadcaster, the distributor, and you would walk away from the process. They controlled when the product went out, they controlled the marketing behind the product and how it was displayed. Technically, nowadays, we have a paradigm shift because you can go straight to your audience. You can use social media, platforms, YouTube, VOD, different ways to connect with them directly and ask them for their feedback. I come from a very traditional film and television making background, and this was the one thing that never made sense to me. When you go and you spend 2-3 years of your life developing a feature film, and you're using a lot of somebody else's money, it is the most expensive way of prototyping a product ever. No other industry does it. And we do it, and we put it out there, and we're not even sure if there's an audience. Whereas using a transmedia approach to development allows you to see if there is an audience. If you upload your Movella's ebook or your digital comic books or your web series and you're finding that the only hits you're getting are from family and friends, then maybe it's time to relook at the concept and go, maybe this isn't what the audience wants to see. Maybe we should be doing it differently. Maybe I should be asking them what they want, as opposed to just thinking that we will put it out and they will come. Those days are like well and truly gone. So there's a tendency to think that because we have all of these great platforms and new cheap technology that we don't have the gatekeepers we have in the past. We kind of do, but they're just different. This guy is called, does a series called Pi Why Die. He's a video games reviewer from Sweden. He's about 25. He is one of the top YouTube channels in YouTube. I mean, the guy makes like maybe $5 million a year in terms of advertising revenue after YouTube take 45% cut. If he can make or break your video game, and all he does is he sits there and he plays and he comments and people subscribe in their millions to this guy. So he's a gatekeeper for that industry now, but he's not traditionally what we thought of as gatekeepers. What we like in terms of the transmedia approach to doing projects is that we try, when we're building our audience, to also control the marketing and distribution and lead the conversation. I think there's this disconnect sometimes where you meet really great filmmakers, and when you talk to them about marketing, they say, but that's the distributor's job, or it's the sales agent's job, or it's the broadcaster's job. It's not. You're the director, writer, or producer. You know what's so unique about your project. You know why you want an audience to see it. And you should be leading that conversation and telling them why, and using the social media and the tools that we have now to do that. So why we do it. One of the other reasons that we are involved in transmedia development is audience. Audience in this particular market it's your currency. If you can go to somebody to pitch a project and say, the web series got over 3 million hits on YouTube, it has over like 2,000 social media tweets, and the ebook is now selling online and also in Easton's down the road. That project suddenly looks like it has a real potential audience, as opposed to a project that comes into you that's a script. I mean, wouldn't you rather go with something that proves the story of why there is an audience for this product, as opposed to just kind of going, well, it's a really nice script and it's written by these guys and they've done this before, or here's like the figures and stats of the viewing patterns, here's how many people are interested, connecting, using the Facebook page, talking about the characters, and giving us casting suggestions for what they want to see. I think for us, in terms of what we then go to with funders, it's proving that we have a built-in audience, a community around the story that we are trying to tell. And also your transmedia approach generates additional revenues. I mean, the thing is that people talk a lot about the business model for social media and online. It's not a secret. There are two ways that you make money online. Either the advertiser pays or the viewer pays. That's it. There's no like third amazing business model out there. You're either getting your revenue from YouTube by putting in the ads, or you're doing like in-product placement, which is paid for by an advertiser who wants to connect with that particular audience. And the reason you generate revenue is because you have audience. It has to be about them. They are now central to the conversation of what we create. So also why we do it. Social connection. The sense of belonging, of creating a fan club, super fans feeling that they discovered this content first and it's really cool and they're going to promote it to their friends. It becomes a conversation topic. The ability to share, to post, to like send clips and photos and use all of the different platforms for sharing the content around and engaging through conversations. And it's also about being heard. I think that what we have in terms of the tools and the availability of technology really gives an opportunity to young and new filmmakers to do something and connect with their audience. So in the 21st century, I think we need to get past this idea that our stories are just told on one media. They're multi-platform. They should be like involving social media and digital platforms. They're being consumed on demand everywhere. And that's a big change for filmmakers. You know, that whole notion of, I'm going to spend a day lighting the scene because the shadow's going to go here and it's going to look amazing on the big screen. And then you realize that 42% of the people watching your content are watching it on a mobile phone. They're not seeing the amazing shadow and shot. They would prefer a nice close-up and a reaction shot and cutting and moving on and some additional content. These are things you need to consider when you're now planning your strategy for what you want to shoot. They consume anywhere, on demand, anytime, anywhere. People talk a lot about piracy. There's one solution to piracy. That's having everything on the same platform for a fair price, available everywhere at the same time. The reason that a lot of teenagers download is because they're super fans. They're frustrated that the show is already on air in the States, but they have to wait 6 months to see it on television. They're not going to wait. They're going to download it. You give them the option. You give them a site where it's easy to download, where they put in their credit card details. They'll pay for it. You make it difficult, then you have piracy. So the story and the brand is bigger than the channel or the medium itself. We're seeing that a lot, particularly in TV drama and things like The Walking Dead. The brand of The Walking Dead is bigger than AMC, who commissions and broadcasts the show. The stories are becoming bigger than the platforms that they're on, and they're global. There's no reason why you can't have like a show that is now a global phenomenon coming from anywhere. As an example, we recently worked with Fantastic Films, who have an amazing movie coming out called Let Us Pray. It's a great horror film. I encourage everybody to go and see it. And we did like a little free downloadable game on the iPhone and Androids where people could download, and it was based on the story premise of the movie. That game is the biggest number of hits is in China, a market they haven't even sold into, hasn't gone to film festivals there or anything, but now their sales agent is contacting going, hey, we've like over 10 million downloads. What's the story? Can you go and buy it? These are the things that you want to do to connect with your audience. If you're doing these things, you know, it's not that you're infringing on Universal Studios or Sony in terms of their marketing department. Normally, 9 times out of 10 from the times we've worked with them, they're thrilled you have additional stuff that they can use. So it is something to consider when you're creating the project, because there's an economy of scale. So when you're shooting, why not shoot the behind the scenes? When you have your cast on set and they're in between breaks, why not use that as a time to go and do some little interviews you can release on YouTube to help build your audience, to get them do their own tour of the set, talk about their characters, and then use all those pieces to build your audience who want to go and see your film. I'm going to end with like Collider, which is something that we also shot here, which is our time-traveling fantasy, which also got us an Emmy nomination. Again, was directed by the lovely Jason Butler, who also does Republic of Telly. And you know, he's a director that I think has a real vision in terms of wanting to use all the different transmedia elements that you can, and not just in terms of creating the film, but creating and working with us in terms of the web series, the game, the app, the downloadable soundtrack that's on Spotify, all the fun things that we do to kind of generate an audience around a project.
Science has made the world what it is today, but it also has the power to destroy it. If the world collapsed and you could go back in time to prevent it, would you make the same mistakes again? Would you sacrifice your own future for the good of mankind? Collider, a sci-fi cross-media adventure about time travel, survival, and second chances. An action-packed combination of science fiction, drama, and suspense drew the audience to the Collider experience. But to get to the future, we first have to travel back in time.
It all started with the release of 6 digital comic books. As the audience moved through each book, they found out more about the backstories of the 6 main characters. Each chapter was extended with a short motion comic. The stories came together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. 6 people in an abandoned building in Geneva in 2018 with no memory of how they got there. The audience was left with one hell of a cliffhanger. Why did these characters leap in time?
Soon enough, a prequel web series kicked off the next stage of the Collider experience.
8 webisodes featuring scientist Peter Ansay's attempts to warn the world about the danger of the Large Hadron Collider experiments. These episodes, combined with a Facebook fan page and Peter's log on Wattpad, would be the perfect entry point into the bigger Collider world.
As the experience expanded, so did the level of interactivity.
With the release of the Collider Quest game, the fan base had the chance to navigate through the CERN tunnels in 2018 and help the characters save the world. The immediate success of Collider Quest spawned 2 new games, a Collider game for Facebook and Codebreaker, where in a race against time, the players work with the character Luke to disarm every bomb in the vicinity.
People got hooked, and the brand grew.
In the summer of 2013, live events at comic conferences and film festivals around Europe spread the word of Collider to more fans in Dublin, London, Lisbon, and many other cities. The Collider digital experience allowed the audience to engage with an intriguing story and helped to grow the fan base, exploring a new form of engagement, crowdsourcing. Applying a gamification strategy, the Collider Movement crowdsourcing competition compelled fans not only to share, post, promote, discuss, but also to become part of the creative team. Users were challenged to write their own scenes for the TV series, and fans could vote for their favorites. The most voted would be included in the final script, and the names of the authors featured in the on-screen credits. Months of community and brand building finally led to a 4-part TV series depicting the group's last 24 hours in a world at war with unknown creatures as they try to reverse the wormhole, save themselves and mankind.
With thousands of game and comic book downloads, Collider has started a brand with an unrivaled level of interactivity and engagement. A digital comic book, a graphic novel, a series of motion comics, 3 interactive games, and a fan-built TV series. What would you do if you had a second chance at life?
I'm looking at Kevin wondering, is he going to hustle me on now any second now? So that's what we did with Collider, and it was a part of the development process that took 3 years. We started with comic books, we watched the interactions in the comic books, we defined the stories of our 6 characters. Incidentally, if you are a film or television producer, it is much cheaper to do a comic book or an ebook or hire a ghostwriter to write up your concept than it is to go and commission somebody to do a first draft of a screenplay. I recommend it in terms of copywriting your IP because you immediately have something that's out there, that's on the market, that's for sale, that's downloadable, which protects the IP that you're trying to create. And I think if you're going to spend 3 or 4 years of your life developing a project, you want to make sure that you have that protection in place from the start. So we did that as a development process. We then moved to a prequel web series, which we shot with Ian Robertson, who was one of the actors that you saw there. And then on the basis of that, we moved into the television production, which we shot here. Wicklow Water Facility never looked as good as it did when it was the Geneva tunnels with monsters running down it, but we would like to thank them very much for that. And it was like a really fun project to do. But in terms of the transmedia elements, when you're developing them, there tends to be this feeling there should be a checklist, like you need a Facebook page, a Twitter, or this or that. It's based on the story you want to tell. With Collider, comic books made sense because we want to reach to the sci-fi community. Games make sense. With something like Beat Girl, comic books would never have worked. Pinterest, because it's a very much more a platform that girls are very comfortable on, worked in terms of the storytelling to go and get that target audience. And having an actual book released in chapters on novellas worked in terms of getting us an audience and getting their interaction there. Be careful of the content you're putting out. Make sure it's tailored to the audience and not just repurposed from something else. It needs to work for the audience you want to communicate with. This is how we developed it. We did spend a lot of time researching, looking at CERN, looking at people, the projects, the different things that were going on there. We talked to a lot of the sci-fi community at Comic-Cons, London Comic-Con. We started going out with the comics. We were a bit gung-ho in that we were like thinking, oh, well, when they travel to the future, there'll be this different comic book style. And we didn't realize that that was a thing in comic books. You didn't alter the style. So they were saying, oh, that's great. And we were like, we didn't know it was a thing. But, have fun with your story. Get to know your story. Get to know the people who are involved in those type of communities. You saw their crowdsourcing. It's not crowdfunding. Crowdsourcing for us was we actually employed a strategy whereby if you reposted the trailer, if you tweeted about it, if you shared the picture on Facebook, then you got points. And from those points, the people who had high enough points went into the end credits of the film, because as far as we were concerned, they were the marketing team that was going to actually get us the audience that we needed. Not ads. It needed to be funded by people, by that peer group. Bloggers in particular, like we do special screenings for bloggers in advance, which are where we treat them like VIPs. They get their press pack, they get their thank yous, they get their tickets to the opening, because those are the people who know how to reach our audience, and we value and respect their judgment and their opinion, and we want to bring them into the conversation when we create stuff. This is how we did in terms of a launch strategy. When we go into a project, you're building a story world, not just a script. So you're looking at what elements of the world could play in different places. If it's a prequel web series, how does that relate to the story? I can tell you when we work with actors and you're doing a feature film and they come to you and they say, tell me about my character and their past, and then you hand them a comic book, which is the past of their character, they love it. It's like, oh, okay, I'll just read it. It's fine. No more, character notes or discussions with the writer. They just get on with it. It's great. This was the timeline we had for our sci-fi drama in terms of the different places that we released and the release strategy that you have for building the audience, starting on Wattpad, going forward in terms of the comic books, then the graphic, the little animations that we did, then going and releasing the different games, always building, remembering that if it's an audience that needs to be fed, it needs content. Once you stop posting, they stop communicating with it. You need to have an idea that if you're going to release, that there's a release strategy. It's not just once a month. It needs to be once a week in the build up to something like this, or twice or 3 times a week in certain cases. And you need to have somebody who can write and answer in the voices of those different characters. We're very writer heavy as a company, because for us, writers start off, first of all, like doing blogs for characters that we're creating. And then from there, they write web series, and from web series, they might write ebooks, and from ebooks, they eventually go on to write feature films and scripts. But it's a process, because they know those characters inside and out, and what the audience feels about them as a result. So yes, in terms of the distribution strategy, we use the web series first, then the games and the comics, the webisodes and the blogs. Strong social media. For us, Facebook was very important for this particular type of game. For something like Beat Girl, Pinterest was very important. For new projects that are coming out, probably Snapchat will be out there and different platforms. So it's important to keep advised of what people likely are actually playing with on their phone, and actually kind of look at those platforms and how you can interact and create story on them. There's some photos of some of the nice people who were promoting our stuff, including the nice guys in Dublin and Forbidden Planet. We love them. And in terms of what's next, we're starting with Collider and with a TV series. We've also developed some software which allows us to create animated versions now of the prequel and sequel series. And I think we're out of time, so I'm not going to show you that. I was going to, but I will give you contacts. And do I have time for questions? Do I? Yeah? She's coming. Yeah. Okay, well then I'll show you a little clip of some of the stuff that we've developed in terms of software. If it plays. Does it play? Maybe. Oh, I'd love to. Don't think it's going to work though. So one of the crazy ideas we had was that we would take video footage and use the game engines of a game to create animation that's low cost that you can use to kind of storyboard out scenes as a director. So instead of being a first-time director and going, hey, it's like this in my head, you can actually use the video game with digital assets uploaded to show people what the scene is going to look like. And this is what we started creating with. And we're now working on a prequel series of one of the characters from the sci-fi, which is all based using this kind of stuff. Because it's fun, and it's really nice to have lots of techie people in your office who do really super stuff. That really impresses me, but I kind of don't fathom how it works.